Alright guys, welcome back to another reaction video. We're gonna react to vs Desu. This woke game might bankrupt Sony, so there's something that's even worse than Concord, apparently, in this case. Anyways guys, you should also subscribe to the channel and like the video, as it would be a huge help to this channel. Let's get into it. I hardly doubt that it gets even worse than Concord, right? Because the thumbnail said to be even worse than Concord. Oh god.
Hey, what's up guys, Riff here. So it's
Hey
been a very
Rev.
rough couple of weeks for Sony, mainly because of the absolute failure of Concord. But what if I told you there's a game that Sony will be releasing that might actually be a bigger failure?
Is that even possible? I guess sure, if it's more expensive and at the same level as Concord, sure, but like, I don't know.
Than Concord.
Can it get even
Well, we're going to
worse?
look at that game in just a second, but for context, we all know about Concord and what happened. This game comes out with all kinds of DEI nonsense,
Released,
and the developers make
got
many
nuked,
disparaging
no
comments
players,
about their potential customers. So
shut
when it finally
down
does come out, this game,
immediately.
despite being in 8 years of development and having a huge budget, instantly fails, and Sony, recognizing this failure, cuts the cord, right? They try to stop the bleeding by shutting the game down after only a week and a half on the market, and as of yesterday, the game is officially shut down. Now, there's something interesting.
Well, when looking at Steam, there were 7 people still playing after shutdown. It's probably Sony forced the developers to play the game in an infinite cycle.
About Concord and Firewalk Studios, the development team behind that game, that I didn't know, and maybe some of you guys don't know as well. It was obvious that they acquired it. Everyone knows that Sony acquired Firewalk Studios, but did you know that they acquired Firewalk Studios in 2023? A lot of people like myself assumed that Firewalk Studios was acquired by Sony many years back, since this game has been in
So basically, this game was woke even before Sony touched it. Okay, I guess that one is not on Sony.
development since
That one is
2016,
not on
but it
Sony.
looks like
Fine.
Sony
Okay.
acquired them pretty much
Guess that's
in
not
the
one.
late
That's
stages
not on
of development.
Sony.
I mean, at this point in 2023, the game
It's okay.
was 7 years in development, and Sony looked at a probably nearly finished Concord and said, "Yup, that's our guy right there. Let's give
Yeah,
would
let's
be
release it.
presumably
Let's see what
millions and millions of
happens.
dollars to acquire the studio and hope that Concord is going to end up selling hundreds of millions of dollars worth of copies." And obviously, we know what happened there. But let's turn.
Wouldn't that mean, depending on how expensive it was to buy that company, wouldn't that mean that it's probably even more money that they lost? Because they probably didn't, like, get the money back for acquiring the company. Plus, additionally, they didn't even get the money back for, in this case, making Concord. So Sony and that company were double punished, basically. That's
Turn our
wild.
attention to the other game that people are comparing Concord to, and that is Fairgames. Now, don't let the money symbol in the name fool you. This game will not be making a lot of money. You can see the description of this game here in their Twitter bio. Let's read it. It says, "Welcome to Fairgames, your chance to rob the rich and rebalance the scales. Take..."
I hate this trope. I hate it. I hate it. I absolutely hate this trope. They make it seem like stealing from somebody who has more money than you is okay. They don't realize that it's still morally wrong. They don't realize that it's still technically still a crime that they are basically promoting with that. And then competitive multiplayer heist game. Imagine what you could have done with that money. You could have basically made a complete, really great heist multiplayer game. Oh no! Again, total waste of potential.
Yep. This is going to be dead on arrival. I'm just predicting this now. I don't think this is going to go very well.
Especially since, like, bros, You're not Robin Hood. You're not that guy. You're just not Robin Hood.
In just a second, you'll understand why people are absolutely crapping all over this game. But let's talk about
Is
it a
it the
little bit, okay?
game that
So,
Asmongold
in
looked
wake
at?
of Concord's failure, there are some rumors that Sony is trying to preemptively get some goodwill towards Fairgames. And they're trying to say that they're very positive about this game. And I think a lot of it, like, is apparent.
They're coping already. Listen, guys, this game has not released yet, and they are already coping. Oh my god. What is this shit?
Concord's failure has made Sony and a lot of people who are investing in Sony very nervous about some of their upcoming projects, and a lot of people are looking at Fairgames, but Sony.
Yeah, this game
seems
is dead on
confident.
arrival.
And of course,
This
in
video
that
is
article,
private.
The gamer here tries to say Fairgames has one crucial advantage over Concord that'll make this whole thing different. And then their source is literally not even available. Like, you can't write this stuff. It's too funny. But anyways, let's talk about the acquisition of Haven Entertainment Studio by Sony. So this is the development team behind Fairgames. And unlike Firewalk Studios in Concord, they acquired this studio, Haven Entertainment, in 2022. And the studio itself was created in 2021. So basically, Sony has been there since the early days of this studio. So unlike Concord, where they came in at the last second.
Founded in March
here,
2021, so a
they've
year
been on the
later.
team pretty much the whole time. They have been
Basically a year later.
the owners
Okay.
of Haven Entertainment Studios and Fairgames for
Okay.
really the entirety of its development. So this looks a lot more on Sony than in the past examples, like with Concord, where they came in at the last second, which really isn't much of an excuse. Like, if the game was really bad, why would they acquire it in the first place? But that's another story. But there's also something that Sony's really trying to harp on
Sony.
with the acquisition of
Yeah,
Haven.
yeah.
They're basically saying that they have some very experienced
like I said,
on their
they are coping before the game is even out. You can't make this up.
including some people from Ubisoft. And unfortunately, it is the year 2024 where that doesn't really inspire a lot of confidence, especially right now with Ubisoft in the fact that they're unable to release any trailer or preview of their two big AAA releases this year without getting dislike bombed into the Shadow Realm. But anyways, Fairgames actually did reveal a CGI trailer a year ago. And this was under my nose and maybe some of your guys' as well. I wasn't even aware that this was going on. But as you can see, how's it going?
Damn, 40K.
Terrible. As per usual, dislike bombed into oblivion. It's very sad that in the last year or two, basically, you can't find trailers of major releases without them being dislike bombed. And it's not because of
insane. 40K
those
is insane.
bigoted chud gamers who are just lashing out. These are genuinely...
Yeah. You, me, Ref here, we're bigots. Because we want good games. Apparently.
Disappointed potential customers who are looking at this slop and saying this is terrible.
Yeah, I've seen the trailer in this case.
Involvement with this, and they want to show
with like
Asmongold companies and developers that we're not having this anymore. And before we get into the trailer, we're gonna watch it together.
They are already coping.
That Sony claims they are very positive about this game, and also keep in mind they spent a lot of money to get on this project.
GG trailer, not actual gameplay. You know what the problem is? I want more AAA games to release gameplay trailers in their very first trailer. It's like, also, who are the 3.8K people that like this? Had to be the entire Sony stuff.
Okay.
You want to know about us?
Not really.
Seems like everyone does these days.
No, we don't.
You see that?
It's simple.
See, we are already in, and we have anti-capitalism rhetoric. This kind of theme has been sucked dry, absolutely dry. Nobody cares. It's boring.
Rich. Yeah, eat the rich, guys. If you haven't gotten the agenda,
Eat the rich, but you know what? It's not the people that complain about the rich that create jobs. It's the rich that create jobs. Yeah. I mean, if you don't like the rich, try and put them in a different country all by themselves. All of them. And see how that works. Because when the rich leave, the jobs leave. But again, they don't get this.
yet that's what's going to be going on here.
Too much money and too much power is held by just a few people.
I mean, sorry. That I can agree with. We have that problem in the real world where, like, for example, companies like BlackRock hold too much power. Like, I can see that.
Too much power, too much money, as you begged Sony to acquire you, who's
Yeah.
a massive conglomerate on the
That's the
entertainment
funny
industry.
part.
But, okay, keep going.
And it's only getting worse. So, we decided to do something about it. Let's go.
Dead on arrival, dude.
He's at loss for words. That's great. So they basically just redistribute the money, which doesn't help the economy, because the problem is that we have too much money like going around, and because we have too much money going around, it devalues the money. It's even shocking to explain that to these people.
I'm sorry. There's not.
That's
much
why
else I
I'm
have to say
saying
here.
raising like the pay doesn't help, because when you raise how much people can earn, it also raises the prices, which again these people don't get. Instead, lowering taxes would be the way to go. Again, these people don't get this. Episode of the end of the music. Also, doesn't this reinforce a racial stereotype that black people commit crime? That's interesting. Or that black people steal? That's interesting.
Yeah, you can definitely tell, like, the hip hop track. They're trying to, again, the how do you do, fellow kids? See, we're hip, we're cool. Eat
We're the
rich.
heroes.
Hell yeah, dude. Eat the rich and listen to our cool music. It's very.
If somebody commits a crime, they are not a hero. Most of the time.
It's so forced. It's actually unbelievable. But we'll let it keep playing.
Window seat like Erica Badu.
Okay.
It's a hard watch. Well, at least the game is very bright and colorful. I guess if that's something to take away.
Yeah, pretty game.
Woo.
Um,
Edgy. All right, so
Yep,
that's
it's
the
pretty
trailer,
edgy.
right? You get the point, okay? The big eat
Man.
the rich theme. Honestly, the whole thing is just very off-putting. Like, let's be honest. Like, it's giving a very forced agenda here. The how do you do?
it's
fellow
forced agenda. It's a drained theme. It's a boring theme. Like, yeah, I don't think I have to say anything
kids
here.
vibe from a bunch of 30 or 40-year-olds at the studio trying to act like they're hip, and honestly, it just seems lame. This game just seems lame and very forced. And
Because we haven't seen any gameplay.
there's just something very off-putting about the whole thing, right? This feels like it's a game made by Twitter for Twitter. You know, like the eat the rich stuff. I don't think people want something that is heavily...
A game made by Twitter for Twitter. How about you make a game by gamers for gamers? You know why these companies so fail? If we trace back why these games are so bad and so woke, is because these games aren't made, well, obviously they are made by game developers, but the companies that these games are made by aren't run by game developers. That is why you see so much love put into indie games and so much shit put into AAA games. Because the indie games are made by game developers. Well, most of the time. Well, sometimes it's also incorrect if we look at Dustborn. I mean, that was probably made by a small studio, and yet it still came out woke. But I think it holds truth most of the time. These games are so woke and so bad because they are not made by game developers. Because if they were made by if these companies were run by game developers, they would know what gamers want.
Political to be
Again,
the
most of
entire
the time.
theme of the game. I think people either, number one, don't really agree with that sort of ideology in the first place, but even those who might be indifferent to it, they don't want to play a game based on it. Like, they're not that enthusiastic about eating the rich that they're going to go play a game. And also the irony of eat the rich while you're playing a game made by Sony, right? Or published by Sony. It's just laughable, and it raises the question based on the...
Maybe it's also a game made by Californians for Californians. Because I've heard about some bad stuff about California.
With Concord, are they going to scrap this?
Probably
I think
not.
it's a legitimate thing that might happen. They might actually go out there and cancel this before it even gets a chance to go out there live. Like, cut their losses. Because I am telling you, there's not many times you can be really confident that something's not going to do well, and I think people can be confident this is not going to reach the expectations Sony had when they acquired
I don't think so either.
And Fairgames. But anyways, I want to do one more thing before we go here and just read the comments on this trailer. They are hilarious. You can't find a single positive thing in these comments. Let's read a few. This person saying, "Eat the rich," said the giant corporation. "Also, please buy our overpriced Battle Pass and MTX. Guys, we're going on a heist. Prepare yourselves." All right, let me just put on my giant hoop earrings. "Eat the rich," said BlackRock, the multinational investment management corporation.
Hey, BlackRock was mentioned. Great. The core issue is what I'm seeing more and more is that these agendas, like, when we look like 4 years back, 2020, 2019, 2018, like, they were a lot more subtle about this. And now they're not trying to hide it anymore. That's the core issue here. We can see that they're doing this. But the weird part is that they know how the people react, but they still release this stuff. This is so irrational. But I guess the goal is, if everything is woke, people have no other choice but to buy that stuff, right? Like I said, creating the modern audience.
You can actually feel Sony sweating nervously through the screen. You want to get to know about us? No. That was literally me. Fairgames, F the rich, also Fairgames. "Hey Sony, do you mind sponsoring us?" "Cancel it. There's still time. You can still save 50 million." And then the last one here,
the next Concord.
Yeah, this whole thing is a disaster, and
it's catastrophic.
Big trouble ahead for Sony. This was likely another very terrible investment for them, and hopefully maybe in the near
Oh
future, there'll be
god.
some lessons learned for these developers and publishers. Maybe they'll learn something from these games that are falling on their face instantly, but I
Let him
highly
finish.
doubt that's going to happen. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. We'll keep an eye on this in the coming months and see if there's any more developments with Fairgames. But
The problem is with these executives. Let's say that game fails. They are not going to, like, remove these people. We can look at the CW, like the Arrow stuff, the Flash stuff, all these like show producers. They were just moved to the next to the next project, and that happens here as well. They don't like throw these people out; they just move them to the next project. Because they are the enforcers. They enforce this agenda. And the problem is, I don't think that will change. Because this is deeply rooted in many companies now. If you watch a lot of Kirche, you know how like deeply rooted this is in many companies. I don't know how you could fix this aside from like voting with your money. But like, sure, Assassin's Creed probably not gonna make as much like Assassin's Creed Shadows probably not gonna make as much money as like before the other Assassin's Creed. But like, is it gonna fail? Probably not. It'll still be fairly successful. Like Baldur's Gate, that was fairly successful. Alan Woke 2 was fairly successful. Like not great. Like they didn't like make the money back, but like it was still somewhat decent. And Concord in its core was, if you remove all the woke stuff, it was just a regular hero shooter. And like, look at Star Wars Outlaws. But however, Star Wars Outlaws is a special like thing, because like Star Wars Outlaws is like, it's woke, but which makes it bad. But it's also bad because it's a bad game. Like, look at all the glitches, look at all the bugs. You couldn't really. This is not Pokemon. If you release a Star Wars game in that state, it's gonna go horrible. If you release a Pokemon game in that state, it's still gonna make a buttload of money. It's also so twisted and weird. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.